We did get some news last night from our very own Flex. So he tweeted out, talks are heating up around the league with teams like Portland, Miami, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Toronto, all very active right now. The Suns could be the mystery team needed to get some of these deals done, per my conversations. With camp weeks away, things could get interesting.
I've got one question. Can we trust this Flex guy?
I don't know, man. I don't know much about that dude. I hear he likes to wear dark shades in the daytime and
I don't know.
stuff.
He's kind of sus. I don't know.
Flex, can you elaborate a little bit on this tweet?
Yeah, it was an interesting day yesterday. I spent a lot of my time not sitting on the couch icing my you-know-what. So
Can we not say it
the
like
people
that?
don't know what you know what is.
all right, so intestines is what you said. Right? So I had a little injury and I was icing a little bit, but yeah, interesting day, a lot of phone calls. I spoke with a handful of teams around the league, and it was clear in the tweet, teams like Chicago, Toronto, Portland, Philadelphia, and Miami, they're very active right now. The interesting thing about these conversations, when you have these conversations, I'm talking to them about those situations. And on 3 separate occasions yesterday, the Suns were brought up without me even bringing them up. They brought them up themselves. One saying, hey, I think the Suns could be a mystery team. Another one, I took a note, said they're the dark horse. And another one used the word entice, as teams are trying to entice the Suns to have conversations. And I think it's clear to be very upfront here. If anyone's talking to the Phoenix Suns, it's about Deandre Ayton, right? Is that fair? We
But
don't
that's
need
also just like basic,
Yes.
no duh.
Yeah, the math is math, and when you
Exactly.
Yeah,
There
I
are
mean-
a small amount of guys who are available legally, and then just when you look at it from like, nobody's going to be getting Devin Booker.
You're not
That's
trading
right.
the top 3. Everybody else was a free agent that signed with you.
Right.
So, yeah, he would be
Right.
the odd man out.
Right, right. So, teams are calling about DeAndre Ayton. I want to make this clear. This is not the Phoenix Suns reaching out saying we don't want DeAndre Ayton. This is teams calling the Suns about DeAndre Ayton, which in essence is a good thing,
Yeah.
right? This is a valued player around the league who's got a lot of untapped potential, and there are teams that think if they can get their hands on DeAndre Ayton, they'll be in a good spot. Suns aren't going to give him away. But I will talk about a couple things. We'll talk about Chicago. Chicago's got DeMar DeRozan on a 1-year deal, 28.6 expiring deal. They have to do something, okay? They don't want to just lose that asset. So that's why they're busy. They're talking about DeMar DeRozan. We talk about Toronto, a guy like OG Anunoby that we talked about the other day on the show.
we did.
He's a very intriguing guy, but he's got a player option for next year that he's surely going to opt out of. Okay, so OG's on a 1-year, $18.6 million deal, and then he's got a play option that I believe from my conversations he's definitely opting out of. And so Toronto's in the conundrum. They're saying, man, are we going to lose this guy for nothing? So that's why they're busy. You got Portland with Dame. We can go down the list. We got Philadelphia with Harden and Tobias Harris. Those are 2 guys that are kind of assets that they need to figure out what they're going to do. And then Miami, Miami's the team that's, I think, is the team that is more likely to want to try to entice people to get in.
Yeah.
Because they want Dame, but they don't quite have the assets.
Yeah.
And so they're the team that's trying to get people to come in. And then, again, the Suns are sitting with a shiny DeAndre Ayton that some people might want to, whatever they say about DeAndre, it is what it is. But he's a former first overall pick. He averaged 18 and 10 last year. He's under contract for 3 years at a little bit over maybe $102 million. And there are teams that value DeAndre Ayton. So calls are coming in, guys.
Can we be very clear? The Suns are not Ross or TJ Maxx. They are Nordstrom. They are not selling on the cheap here. All
Yeah.
right?
No,
This
no.
is not you're coming in and you're getting some sweetheart deal for DeAndre Ayton. So this ain't Yusuf Nurkic and spare parts for DeAndre Ayton.
Yes.
Like that, it ain't that. And I had people from Portland reach out to me and be like, I'm hearing DA's name, and you know it's happening a lot if they're reaching out to me being like, you hearing this? So like there's obviously interest, but this is not going to be some simple here's Nurkic and here's garbage that we've got. Never refer to a player as garbage, but
You just did.
the leftover parts that we don't want. This is going to be a serious deal if it happens, and the Suns are taking calls, they're not actively making them.
Well, and you can like DA all you want. That's great for you. But if the offer is not what he's worth, then the Suns aren't going to accept that.
I would find it very, very hard to believe it would be DA for Nurk straight up, because that doesn't even match up dollar-wise. It would have to be something, and as Espo alluded to, it would have to be something significant on the other end. It's Nurk and Shaedon Sharpe. It's Nurk and fucking Scoot. It's Nurk and it's got to be a stud player to match up with what you're giving up. Because listen, Portland, we all know, is high on Deandre Ayton. Mm-hmm. There's a couple other teams that are very high on Deandre Ayton, and he's still got several years left on his deal. So that's a valuable asset to keep in the fold as you move forward, as you try to convince your team that you're not rebuilding, you're just kind of retooling. And I think, listen, Deandre Ayton might like to go somewhere else. I don't know, but I will say this: Nurk and Scoot. I would be all over that shit. So would everybody else.
Man. You can dream all you want. It's free.
Espo,
it ain't happening.
You've been down this road before. Okay, stop shitting on my dreams before they happen, because they inevitably always happen when you say they won't.
Saul, I will buy you a new car.
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
And Nurk, all right?
No.
Oh,
I will buy
boy.
you a brand new car of my choosing.
No. Of my choosing.
You will get a Daewoo and you will like it.
Of my choosing?
Well, no, it has to be Espo's choosing.
I keep buying you a $90,000 car.
He's going to bring you in a
Maybach.
Hot Wheel.
That's exactly what he was going to do. He's like, oh,
this Hot Wheel's
it's a car.
new.
Like, no.
Wrapped up in packaging. But go ahead.
No, I'm listen. The conversation is clear. The Blazers love Deandre Ayton. Okay, they want Deandre Ayton. They've wanted Deandre Ayton for quite some time. They're enamored with a Scoot Henderson and Deandre Ayton tandem, right? The Suns are not just going to give away Deandre Ayton for Nurkic. But I think you alluded to some good stuff. I mean, there are some young guys on that Portland roster. A guy like Shaedon Sharpe. Extremely interesting. And if you add a third team and it's Nurk and another player, we can get creative too. But there are talks happening, guys, and that's basically in a nutshell.
If the Suns were going to lose Deandre Ayton, they would need to get another solid big in return, because you need another solid big. I listen. I love the players that they have backing up DA, but I don't love them that much. You need a solid big in return. You need a bona fide player that can contribute to this year's roster. Yeah. And possibly you need some draft assets, because you lost a shit ton of them over the last 2 years. So, like, if you can accomplish those three for DA, I would be on board. Otherwise, don't touch that shit at all. Just let this ride out with DA and see where it goes.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you there. I think if you can get a young guy, that can come in with a Nurk or whoever the big is, that you can sell fans on, he helps now and he helps in the future, that would be key too, because you are limited in your draft assets. I also don't, and I'm speaking with no direct knowledge on this, but I also don't think this is necessarily predicated on a Dame trade. If you can find something that's of interest to the Suns and your Portland, maybe make that deal, and you hope maybe that's intriguing enough for Dame to give it a try for a little while. So I wouldn't think that it's just predicated on that. Maybe there's something more that could happen.
Yeah, no, I agree with that.
No, you're good. Howard said draft assets don't mean shit with this team. Listen, they do, because as you move forward, you're going to need some capital, some kind of way to be able to have some roster flexibility in case things are not exactly straight up. So, I just think, you need as a company, you want to have as many assets at your disposal as possible to give you the most flexibility to succeed in the future. They want to win right now, yes, but that doesn't mean they want to burn the next decade just to try and win this year and next year. So I think I'm not going to say this is certain to happen. I'm not. I'm still firmly in the camp of it's not going to happen, just like I was firmly in the camp of James Harden is not coming to the Phoenix Suns Black Sunday. You're going to owe me $100 here in about 32 days.
Can we add on to this and no matter who wins or who loses this bet, can we get the exchange of money on camera so that we can like make a piece of content out of it?
Well, yeah. Well, first of all,
can we also add that on there?
I mean this with no disrespect to Black Sunday, who's in the chat, and a couple of the other people who I also took screenshots of this chat of. I'm not meeting them one-on-one. I don't know who they are. I don't see their face.
Those headlights
I just don't want to, like, listen, man, like we're exchanging some money. I just want to make sure we're on the up and up.
Yeah, we're not doing it in a dark alley.
It's all gonna be
yeah.
in
We said Papado. We said Papado.
Nice area.
But I was listen, Papado,
we could sit down, we could have a meal.
Shit can go down in Papado.
Right.
I want to say this. Nurkic's name has been the one that has consistently come up. And I don't hate that in a Frank Vogel system, right? He's a guy that can play defense, doesn't need offensive touches necessarily, but can still clean up the boards and get some of those second chance points, be there on the roll and stuff. I think he's a guy that you could insert there at center if you get somebody else along with it that brings a good amount of talent where it still works. It's serviceable enough with him at center that it could be intriguing. You're not replacing everything that DA offers with a Nurkic, obviously, not even close in terms of potential, but it's a guy that fits in the way that Frank Vogel approaches things.
Fucking everybody in the chat right now.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm okay with Nurk. I'm okay with Nurk because I understand it's going to be a center by committee when you do that. When you do that, a center by committee, you're going to have Nurk, you're going to have Bobo, you're going to have Eubanks, and they'll figure it out. I want to stress this, guys. The Suns are not going to give Deandre Ayton away. I'm certain of that. They're just not going to give him away. If there is a deal that makes sense, I think they do it. And if there's not a deal, they hold on to DeAndre Ayton and go into the regular season and see how things shake out. This doomsday theory that people are sitting here thinking the Suns are just going to blow this up and now they're just going to trade DeAndre for nothing. I don't get it. There's nothing that shows that as far as Matt Ishbia and the guys.
Real quick, we do have, just to back you up, Gambo also tweeted. He did say, and I quote, "Let me address some of the DeAndre Ayton rumors. The Suns have not been willing to move DA all summer because they think he fits well. There were no offers that would change that. If Nurkic was on the table, I would be surprised if the Suns didn't look into it because an argument could be made that he is an upgrade for Phoenix. This would be contingent on Dame being moved. Portland has previously shown no interest in DA, but that was with Dame staying. If they do not have Dame on the roster, they could very well want a young 25-year-old to build around. Vogel needs a defensive-minded center to build his defense around, and Nurkic does fit that mold. This would be contingent on a Lillard trade, and I expect that to happen very, very soon."
Let me say.
So
this,
Gambo thinks a Damian Lillard trade is happening.
It's going to happen soon.
I agree. I mean, my conversations yesterday kind of was leaning towards that. So yeah,
my conversation though with some people in Portland suggests that Portland has been interested before, that this isn't something that's brand new when it comes to DeAndre Ayton. And I think to say that Nurkic is a definite upgrade is not fair to DeAndre Ayton in any sense of it, the way he's currently playing and the potential that he has. So I think that's an unfair assessment when it comes to DeAndre Ayton. Is Nurkic a guy that can come in, like I said, and do a lot of things that make it easier to lose a guy like DeAndre Ayton? Sure. But you still need another significant piece for that to even add up in terms of talent.
Yeah, listen, I know like a lot of people like to disrespect DA. He's still an 18-10 dude, night in, night out. Like, I don't give a shit what it looks like. The numbers still say that he is that. Yeah. And so if you're gonna replace Nurkic, DA with Nurkic, and you're like Half-Life Hero says, 13.3 points on 52% shooting and 9.9 rebounds, like that's not enough. You need something else, especially considering the youth of Ayton as well. That's a factor. Yeah. The amount of time left on his deal. That's a factor. Like, those are all bonuses going the opposite direction. You need something bona fide to come back and return. Otherwise, it's not worth the time. As you sit here right now, You are a championship contender. Do not do something that would minimize that in any direction.
No, and one other thing I think we got to take into consideration is, the Suns weren't willing to move him earlier. Yet the offers weren't necessarily where they were either, because you look at what he did with the Bahamas, right? And I think that upped his value with a lot of teams, because you look at the impact he had there, and people again are going, oh, there's that potential. Yeah. And potential is the thing that really starts to intrigue these teams and go, oh, team number 2, we can make him that star.
Can I piggyback on that? The Mikal Bridges. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
The Mikal Bridges thing is something that is a big part of the Deandre Ayton discussion, and I'll tell you why.
Ooh.
Mikal Bridges going to Brooklyn, spreading his wings and doing what he's doing, has now got teams in their GM chairs sitting saying, is DeAndre the next Mikal? Is he the next guy that's going to leave Phoenix and we're going to let him spread his wings and we're going to see a different player than we saw in Phoenix?
Right.
But you could... Oh, I'm sorry.
That's the biggest thing, though, is that you've only seen DeAndre Ayton under Monty Williams.
Right.
With the Bahamas, it was a different coach, a different system, different people around him.
Different player.
The Suns also are probably thinking to themselves, are these offers worth moving DA, or is it better to at least wait until the trade deadline to see what we've got with DA being led by somebody not named Monty Williams?
Correct. I agree. Couldn't agree more.
I think you're playing a dangerous game, though, too, because it could go the other way. And then your offers, if you do want to move on at that point, may be lesser. So there's this balancing act that you got to figure out and determine. But yeah,
sure. But if Nurk and some change is what you're offering, then I'm willing to take that gamble every day.
Agree wholeheartedly. And I don't think any of us would be too far off base saying when you watch those games, you could tell Monty's system limited him at times. How many times did he have 14 points in the first half and wound up with 18 for a game?
Not touch the ball.
Didn't get the ball, especially when it came to the fourth quarter. So I definitely think the intrigue of having Vogel be his coach and being able to help set him up for success like Vogel has with so many big men, make it more intriguing to keep him in the fold than try to move on. Because even if you want to move on later, if Vogel taps into that potential even more, you're going to get more for him.
I don't know if this is true, but Noah Sons just said Gambo said he expects a Dame trade within the next 24 hours.
Well, we'll be here tomorrow at 3. So
you won't.
Whoa, wait, let's time out. If DA got traded sometime tonight. Oh no, we'll be there right there.
That doesn't necessarily mean DA is a part of it.
But like if something happened,
hey, I'm talking to my Portland guys right after the show. So if we get something, we'll be back here.
We'll let you know. Make sure you follow the show on Twitter at PHNX_Suns. We do have a super chat from Brian. Brian said, better chance of Lindsay being awake at 9 a.m. than Nurk playing more than 56 games. He can't stay healthy.
Damn.
I mean, I woke up today at 8:56. So
4 minutes before that.
Damn.
I'm just kidding.
This is fascinating. It's fascinating because I'll tell you, there was a lot of talk about DeAndre Ayton on draft night, and the offers they were getting for DeAndre around draft night were, for lack of better words, atrocious.
Trash.
Okay? Trash. And this is directly from people around the Suns who I had in-depth conversations with around that time. And it was terrible. Now we've gotten to a point with the Bahamas national team that, DA's performance in the summer, the work he put in over the summer, there are teams giving better offers. And I start to wonder at what point do you sit back and analyze and say, is this going to be the highest we're going to get for DeAndre?
Mm-hmm. Look,
So it's just fascinating to see how they're going to navigate this thing.
I'm going to say this: if you get to a point where it's DA and an OG Anunoby, that kind of value, you do it. You do it at that point because you get even deeper. You get another guy with immense talent. If you're not in that range, I think you hold off. I think you wait and see what you can get later.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's worth the gamble. And, the Suns are having conversations. Matt Ishbia, James Jones, the rest of the front office, they're having conversations with DA as well. They know where he's at mentally, how he's feeling about the team. They're having conversations with KD and Book and how they're feeling about the situation as well. They're all doing their due diligence as they should and putting their heads together to take the path that they think is the best path for the Suns organization and the potential for us to win a championship. If they don't feel like DA is bought in, then yeah, they would be more inclined to move him quicker rather than later. But if they feel like they have a good opportunity to do something special with this team with DA involved, they're going to try that out. I
find it not impossible to believe, but I do find it hard to believe that they would move DA without even a practice yet in the fold with Frank Vogel. Like, I just feel like Frank's going to want to see what he has to work with first before they pull the trigger on anything. So I feel like we're going to get to training camp before anything is decided. It's hard for me to believe that, because on paper, from the outside looking in, you look at this guy and you're like, he has all the measurables and you feel like he should be way more dominant than he is. And any coach would tell you that they have the utmost confidence in themselves to try and pull that out of somebody. So to move on from him for somebody who is, the lesser, unless you're getting a couple other options back, I just don't see it.
Can I ask you though, if you're you play ball, you know the game. How do you get the top Deandre Ayton as a fourth option every night?
It's mental. It's all mental.
Yeah, but I think you're right. There's not going to be the touches to get him where you want to be, where everybody thinks he should be offensively.
That's what I'm saying.
So you'd have to do it defensively. And to your point, though, James Jones has seen and talked with DA and knows who DA is. So if he feels comfortable with the move, I'm going to trust that because he's seen it. I think he has a good idea of what he thinks Frank Vogel can get out of Deandre Ayton. And if he decides to make a move before the season, to me that says he doesn't think that DA can achieve it with Vogel.
Maybe that might be true, but I also think that, again, James Jones and Monty were in lockstep with a lot of things that happened the last couple of years. I don't necessarily agree with some of the movement that they or the lack of movement that they put DA in from time to time in the last 2 or 3 years. I think DA's deserved a little bit more. I also understand that DA is also the culprit of his own actions, and results. The results of that kind of spoke for themselves. So I listen. I think Frank Vogel has a unique way of getting across the players. Mm-hmm. He was able to manage big egos in LA. I think he might be able to do the same thing here and get everybody on the same page. To me, I feel like most of this is mental with DA. I really do. And yes, the ball is not going to be focused around DA as much anymore, but you don't need it to be if you still feel like you're part of the offense. And that's where I felt like everything kind of fell apart, was that everything was focused around Chris Paul and Devin Booker, and everybody else was kind of a side piece. That's the reason why Mikal is thriving in Brooklyn, as opposed to here, where, he's averaging damn near 30 in Brooklyn. Here, he was averaging like 15, 14 a game. Why? Because everything was focused with those two, and they didn't utilize their assets as best they can. He goes to Brooklyn, he thrives. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, maybe pump the brakes a little bit. I get it. Because, again, to your point, James Jones is the one that traded Mikal. If he knew Mikal was going to average 30, he might not have done it.
He got Kevin Durant. He'd do it
I get that.
Times out of 10.
But maybe there's another move that he could have made to supplant that. I don't know.
Still fully believe that James Jones didn't want to move Mikal, that was a Matt Ishbia call. That's just my opinion on the situation, but that's how I believe this whole thing went down personally.
Somebody in the chat asked, could Dallas get involved? I can tell you this from what I heard. Dallas was one of those teams that made trash offers on draft night, and they haven't gotten more talent since.
They don't have anything else to offer.
Yeah, I don't think that's.
I'm not hearing Dallas at all when it comes to this stuff. This is crazy times. Listen, I'm okay keeping DA. I really am. I'm okay. I agree with you. So I think DA's got untapped potential, and I believe if DA gets traded, he's going to show a lot more than we've seen here. Right. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know everybody else in the chat is pointing it out. Like, listen, you if you put your stars in positions to succeed, they're going to succeed.
Yeah.
If you stick them in the corner, they'll be fucking useless, Monty.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I get this, but I want this energy from these people who are vehemently saying, don't trade DA. If he stays the first time he goes 9-8, I don't want to hear, oh, DA should have gotten rid of him, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Because if you're standing for him now, stand for him when he has a rough game in the season too. Because that's part of this problem. People vacillate so dramatically with DeAndre Ayton. When it comes time to consider moving on, it's like, well, that's not enough value. But then, during the season, it's like, well, this guy can't
for a
do
bag
it.
of chips.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
well, would you though?
Yeah, you got to chill with that. It's got to chill. Listen, if the Suns can get Nurkic, a young player, and maybe even draft compensation, I think it's time to start really thinking about that. And I think that's down the lines of what I think the Suns are going to want to get DA moved.